Chapter 1. I didn't expect to become a sweeping monk of the Shaolin Temple. Su Qin opened his eyes, got up quickly, and walked towards the door. Su Qin was not from this world. He came from Earth. Originally, Su Qin was not a disciple of the Shaolin Temple. His original transmigrator was the third young master of the family Su. The family Su was a local rich family with countless masters. The master of the family was a level 6 master, and his power spread far and wide. Unfortunately, when Su Qin was 10 years old, that is, a few days ago, a great enemy of the Su family came and injured the Su family patriarch with a raise of his hand. In order to preserve their bloodline, the family Su had no choice but to disperse their disciples. Su Qin was secretly sent to the Shaolin Temple. In order to avoid being rejected by the Shaolin Temple, the family Su did not expose Su Qin's identity. Instead, they sent him to the Shaolin Temple as an orphan. The Shaolin Temple had a deep heritage. Even though it had declined in recent years, it was not something that the enemy of the family Su could deal with. As long as Su Qin entered the Shaolin Temple, he would be safe. In fact, Su Qin did succeed in entering the Shaolin Temple. However, because he had no martial arts aptitude, he could only be assigned to the chores yard and become a sweeping monk. Su Qin walked out of the door. At the moment, there were dozens of young acolytes in gray robes standing outside. Su Qin walked over and stood somewhere in the back. Okay. Since you have entered the Shaolin Temple, the past has nothing to do with you. At this moment, a monk with a wide face and big ears spoke. Although the chores yard is not as good as the Dharma court or the warrior monastery, it is peaceful and quiet. As long as you do your daily chores well, no one will disturb you. The monk with a wide face and big ears paused for a moment before continuing, "Let's disperse and do what we need to do today." The dozens of little novice monks left one after another. Su Qin took the broom and walked towards the grand hall of Shaolin Temple. Although Su Qin was a sweeping monk, Su Qin was not the only sweeping monk in the Shaolin Temple. The Shaolin Temple was one of the world's great martial arts sections. It occupied a large area. If it was left to Su Qin to clean up, it would take more than a year to clean it up. Su Qin was in charge of the area near the Great Strength Hall. Soon, Su Qin arrived in front of the Great Strength Hall, gazing at the majestic hall. As one of the most important places in the Shaolin Temple, every corner of the Great Buddha's hall was filled with majesty. Su Qin stood outside the Hall of Great Strength and could vaguely see the golden body of Buddha enshrined inside. Suddenly, a mechanical voice sounded in Su Qin's ears. Detected that the host's current location meets the sign-in conditions. System is activating. Activation successful. The host can sign in today. System? Sign in? Su Qin's pupils shrank slightly. In a flash, Su Qin's thoughts turned quickly. He asked tentatively in his heart, "Must I sign in here?" Anywhere in the world, the host can sign in as long as there is a remnant of Daoist connotation. Note, you can only sign in once a day. Places where the Daoist connotation is thicker will get better rewards for signing in. You can sign in repeatedly in some places. The mechanical and indifferent voice slowly sounded in Su Qin's ears. Daoist connotation? Su Qin muttered to himself. He roughly knew what the system meant. Not every place met the sign-in conditions. For example, the family Su where Su Qin lived for 10 years didn't have the Daoist connotation mentioned by the system, so the system couldn't be activated. And the Mahavira Hall, as the important place of the Shaolin Temple where the Buddha's golden body is enshrined, there is Daoist connotation, which meets the sign-in conditions of the system. Su Qin's thoughts fluctuated, and his face flashed with joy. Originally, Su Qin thought that he would spend the rest of his life as a sweeping monk of the Shaolin Temple. After all, the Shaolin Temple is not a place where anyone can enter and leave casually. Su Qin entered the Shaolin Temple as an orphan, which is equivalent to selling himself to the Shaolin Temple. If he wants to return to the secular world, he needs at least the consent of a head of the temple. But this is basically impossible. What is the status of the head of the temple? Why would he care about Su Qin, a mere sweeping monk? Besides, if every monk agreed to return to the secular world, the Shaolin Temple would have been empty long ago. Even if the family Su repelled the enemy and restored their former status, it is simply impossible to persuade a head of the Shaolin Temple. Although the family Su is a local noble family, the Shaolin Temple was once a world-famous martial arts sect and the founder of Arhat. The two are not on the same level at all. Even the enemy who forced the family Su to disperse the disciples of the family in order to preserve the bloodline inheritance is not worth mentioning in front of the Shaolin Temple. Su Qin entered the Shaolin Temple, and although he completely got rid of the enemy's pursuit, but at the same time, he will be trapped in the Shaolin Temple for the rest of his life. But now, the sign-in system gave Su Qin hope. System, give me a sign-in. Su Qin calmed down and said in his heart. The next moment, congratulations to the host, sign-in successful. You have received the divine art, Buddha's palm. The system prompt sounded in Su Qin's ears. Buddha's palm? Su Qin took a deep breath. If Su Qin remembered correctly, Buddha's palm is the strongest divine art of the Shaolin Temple, and it is known as the Buddha's personal inheritance. The moment Su Qin received Buddha's palm, buzz! Above the great Buddha's hall, a huge golden Buddha appeared, with one hand pointing to the sky and the other pointing to the ground, majestic and heavy. In heaven and earth, only I am supreme. The Buddha's aura diffused, illuminating the entire Shaolin Temple as if it contained countless truths. At this moment, the Shaolin Temple shook, and countless monks knelt on the ground, chanting, Buddha has shown himself. Swish, swish, swish. At the same time, several figures quietly appeared outside the great Buddha's hall. The person in the lead was wearing a red cassock and holding a 9-ringed monk's staff. It was the Shaolin Temple's abbot, Hui Wen. The other several people were the heads of the various sections. At this moment, everyone, including Abbot Hui Wen, was shocked as they looked at the huge golden Buddha above the great Buddha's hall. Namo Amitabha. Abbot Hui Wen bowed to the huge golden Buddha, and the other heads did the same. Namo Amitabha. After a while, the Buddha's aura slowly dissipated. Abbot Hui Wen only dared to raise his head when the Buddha's aura had completely disappeared. Such a strong Buddha's aura. Abbot Hui Wen's heart was in turmoil. He was not only the abbot of the Shaolin Temple, but also a world-renowned martial arts expert. The golden Buddha that appeared just now was completely condensed from Buddha's aura. It should be known that even an existence at the level of an arhat has far less Buddha nature than the golden Buddha from before. Could it be that a disciple has really gained the favor of the Buddha? That's why the Buddha's aura descended? Abbot Hui Wen looked inside the great Buddha's hall at the many disciples who were serving the Buddha's golden body. The great Buddha's hall was an important place of the Shaolin Temple, and there were disciples serving it at all times. If a disciple had really gained the favor of the Buddha, it could only be among these disciples. The other heads also thought of this, and suddenly, their eyes changed as they looked at the disciples in the great Buddha's hall. Since the last holy monk passed away 60 years ago, the Shaolin Temple had not given birth to another holy monk. As a result, the Shaolin Temple's position in the world of martial arts rapidly declined. If a disciple had gained such a huge amount of Buddha's aura, not to mention a holy monk, even attaining Arhat's Buddhahood would be a piece of cake. Thinking of this, the court heads' hearts began to burn. You guys, back down. Without the permission of the heads, don't come near. The head of the warrior monastery had a fiery temper. He looked at Su Qin and the other Chor's Hall disciples who were pale, and waved his hand. The Chor's Hall disciples looked at each other and turned to leave. The other heads and Abbot Hui Wen saw this and did not stop them. Chapter 2. It's the Buddha's palm. Along the way, Su Qin was excited, but he didn't show it on his face. This was the most powerful martial art of the Shaolin Temple, known as the Buddha's palm. There were only a few people in the world who could compete with it. However, Su Qin had heard other rumors. As early as 900 years ago, the Buddha's palm had been lost. The Shaolin Temple had lost this most powerful martial art. Su Qin's thoughts were in turmoil. As the former third young master of the family Su, Su Qin had no martial arts aptitude, but he still had some understanding of the world's situation. Whether it was the Shaolin Temple or the family Su Qin was in, They were all in an empire called the Tang Dynasty. In the Tang Dynasty, the righteous and the evil were at odds with each other. To the north of the Tang Dynasty were the Song Dynasty and the Liao Dynasty. Outside the Liao Dynasty was the Meng Yuan Empire, which occupied the endless grasslands. To the south of the Tang Dynasty was the Ming Empire. In addition, there were many small countries such as Dali and Nanzhao. It could be said that this world was a combination of the countless martial arts worlds in Su Qin's previous life. Soon, Su Qin returned to the chores yard. Buzz! Su Qin's mind entered the center of his eyebrows. He felt a huge golden Buddha standing in the center of his eyebrows, exuding an immortal and eternal aura. It was the Buddha's palm. With Su Qin's current physical strength, he couldn't withstand the supreme martial art of the Buddha's palm. He could only condense this golden Buddha and let Su Qin slowly comprehend it. To completely master the Buddha's palm, Su Qin's strength had to reach a certain level. It was like a baby getting a peerless divine sword. First, he had to have the strength to lift the peerless divine sword before he could master it. No rush, take it slow. Su Qin comforted himself in his heart. Anyway, the Buddha's palm was already in his hands. As long as Su Qin's strength reached a certain level, using the Buddha's palm would be a matter of course. Moreover, this was only the reward Su Qin received for the first time. In the Shaolin Temple, the Mahavira Hall was one of the most important places, but there were also places comparable to the Mahavira. For example, the various courtyards, the Sutra Pavilion, the Demon Subduing Tower, and so on. Su Qin has decided that he will visit every place in the Shaolin Temple in the future and strive not to miss any opportunity to sign in. The next day, Su Qin's Sutra was Sutra Sutra. In fact, this was normal. If a mere sweeping monk could read the books in the Sutras depository, wouldn't it mean that there was no one left in the Shaolin Temple? System, sign in. Su Qin muttered to himself as he swept the floor. Congratulations to the host for signing in successfully. You have received the cultivation technique I Jin Jing. Note, this is a repeatable sign-in location. The host can sign in once a day. The sound of the system notification came slowly. Oh, I Jin Jing, Su Qin was amazed. Although the I Jin Jing wasn't as famous as the Buddha's palm, it was definitely one of the world's most miraculous martial arts. Cultivating the tendon-changing scripture could change one's tendons and remove one's hair, changing one's bone structure. To Su Qin, an ordinary person without any martial arts aptitude, this was even more important than the Buddha's palm. Although the level of the Buddha's palm far surpassed that of the I Jin Jing, if the I Jin Jing hadn't changed Su Qin's martial aptitude, he wouldn't even have had the chance to use the Buddha's palm. In an instant, a large number of memories of cultivating the I Jin Jing appeared in Su Qin's mind. At the same time, Su Qin's bone structure slowly emitted a kacha-kacha sound. Obviously, under the infusion of the system, Su Qin directly grasped all the key points of cultivating the I Jin Jing. After a long time, Su Qin opened his eyes. Su Qin looked at his hands in disbelief. Su Qin could clearly feel that there was a faint aura flowing between his limbs and bones. Internal force? I've entered the grade? Su Qin muttered. In this world, martial arts, from low to high, are divided into 9 grades to 1 grade. 9th grade is the lowest, and 1st grade is the highest. 9th grade to 7th grade are the lower 3 realms, 6th grade to 4th grade are the middle 3 realms, and 3rd grade to 1st grade are the upper 3 realms. The reason why the family Su could become a local wealthy family was because the head of the family Su had entered the middle 3 realms and became a 6th grade martial artist. And Su Qin now had internal force, which meant that he had already entered the 9th grade. It's worthy of being called the world's most amazing martial arts. I've just started and I'm already at the 9th grade. Su Qin was overjoyed. One must know that he was an ordinary person without any martial arts aptitude. Logically speaking, it was impossible for him to become a martial artist. But now, the I Jin Jing had turned something rotten into something magical, and directly allowed Su Qin to enter the 9th grade. Of course, this was mainly because the system had instilled all the key points of the I Ching Jing into Su Qin's mind, allowing him to completely master the I Ching Jing. Otherwise, even if the complete I Ching Jing was placed in front of Su Qin might not be able to understand it. Buddhist martial arts were known for being obscure and difficult to understand, let alone an amazing martial art like the I Ching Jing. On the 3rd day, Su Qin was assigned to sweep the floor of the Bodhi court. Among the courts of the Shaolin Temple, the Bodhi court had the least number of monks. Other courts, such as the Warrior Monastery and the Arhat court, had to recruit a large number of disciples every year. But the Bodhi court was different. Throughout the year, there were almost no new faces added to the Bodhi court. But even so, the Bodhi court's position in the Shaolin Temple was still unshakable. Because the Shaolin Temple's small revitalizing pill, great revitalizing pill, marrow cleansing pill, and even the Bodhi pill all came from the Bodhi court. Who in the martial arts world didn't know about the Shaolin Temple's small revitalizing pill and great revitalizing pill? A place rich in pills? Su Qin's eyes flashed slightly, and he said in his heart, "System, sign in here." Congratulations to the host for signing in successfully. Received the pill, small revitalizing pill. Note, this is a repeatable sign in location. The host can sign in once a day. Suddenly, an ancient pill appeared in the system space. As long as Su Qin was willing, he could take out this bottle of pills at any time. But Su Qin forcibly stopped this idea. This was outside the Bodhi court. If Su Qin suddenly took out a bottle of small revitalizing pill, it was very likely to attract attention. At night, after confirming that there was no one nearby, Su Qin took out the small revitalizing pill. Suddenly, a snow-white pill appeared in front of Su Qin. The Shaolin Temple's small revitalizing pill had the miraculous effect of opening up the muscles and bones and increasing one's strength. The Shaolin Temple was able to maintain its position as a major martial arts sect after losing the most powerful divine skill, the Buddha's palm. Su Qin looked at the round small revitalizing pill, his eyes shining. After practicing I Ching Jing, Su Qin was tortured by hunger almost all the time. The vegetarian food provided by the Shaolin Temple could not satisfy Su Qin's needs at all. If this continued, Su Qin would probably still be a 9th-stage martial artist 10 years later. Martial arts cultivation was about refining essence into qi. Without a sufficient supply of essence qi, there would be no benefit. But with the small revitalizing pill, everything was different. The small revitalizing pill was originally refined with various precious herbs. It was simple to replenish Su Qin's consumption. Gulp. Su Qin swallowed the small revitalizing pill. The small revitalizing pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth, forming a huge heat flow that rushed to every corner of Su Qin's body. With the continuous integration of the heat flow, the internal strength of I Ching Jing grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. After an unknown amount of time, the internal strength that had skyrocketed by a large amount rumbled as if it had touched a bottleneck and began to slowly calm down. Peak 9th stage. A single small revitalizing pill pushed me to the peak of the 9th stage? Chapter 3. I Ching Jing, as a unique skill of the Shaolin Temple, is known for its strong foundation. As long as I practice step by step, it's only a matter of time before I enter the upper realm. Other disciples, even the court heads, have to be careful when practicing I Ching Jing for fear of misunderstanding its true meaning. But I'm different. With the system's installation, it's equivalent to taking a strategically advantageous position. It's impossible for me to go astray. Su Qin converged his aura and didn't rush to break through. Instead, he stabilized his peak grade 9 realm. The internal force of the peak grade 9 realm slowly circulated in his body, making Su Qin's eyes and ears clear. He could clearly see a reptile dozens of meters away. Martial Dao cultivation is essentially the path of human evolution. It is recorded in the ancient books that martial artists in the upper realm have already set foot in developing their own potential. Every martial artist in the upper realm is unique. Even in the Shaolin Temple, martial artists in the upper realm are enough to serve as court heads. It is said that there is a wider world above the upper realm. Su Qin leisurely yearned for it. However, I must keep the matter of becoming a grade 9 martial artist a secret. Su Qin's heart tightened. An ordinary man is innocent, but a treasure is a crime. As a transmigrator, how could Su Qin not know this truth? Although the Shaolin Temple claims to be righteous, Su Qin will not put his life in the hands of the Shaolin Temple. Thinking of this, Su Qin became vigilant and made up his mind. In the future, he must be careful in the Shaolin Temple to avoid unnecessary trouble. Time passed. 5 years passed in a blink of an eye. In the past 5 years, Su Qin had been doing his job and sweeping the floor in a well-behaved manner. There was not a single wave. However, Su Qin heard that several disciples of the handyman court, because they were secretly learning martial arts, were discovered and caused the anger of the court head, who directly expelled them from the Shaolin Temple. Expelled from the Shaolin Temple? If it was before entering the Shaolin Temple, Su Qin would be tempted and think about whether he could return to the secular world through this method. After all, life in the Shaolin Temple is too boring. How can it be as carefree as the third young master of the family Su? But now, even if the court heads and Abbot Huiwen knelt in front of Su Qin and begged him to leave the Shaolin Temple, Su Qin would refuse without hesitation. For others, the Shaolin Temple is a shackle. But in the eyes of the Shaolin Temple, by Shaolin Temple is Shaolin Temple. Every day, as long as he swept the floor and signed in, he would be able to obtain all kinds of secret manuals and elixirs. His strength would also soar. Where can you shine? In the past 5 years, Su Qin visited the entire Shaolin Temple in the name of sweeping the floor. Except for a few forbidden areas, Su Qin basically signed in everywhere in the Shaolin Temple. Outside the Dharma court, Su Qin signed in and received marrow cleansing scripture, golden bell shield, and other secret techniques. Outside the warrior monastery, Su Qin signed in and received Arhat fist, demon subduing fist, and other secret techniques. Outside the Arhat temple, Su Qin signed in and received Vajra unbreakable divine art. Signing in under a 1,000-year-old ancient tree in the Shaolin Temple, Su Qin received flower pinching finger. Signing in outside the demon subduing tower, Su Qin received nether scripture, absorbing stars great technique, and other secret techniques. After 5 years of signing in, Su Qin discovered that most places in the Shaolin Temple could only sign in once or a few times. For example, the Great Strength Hall. Ever since Su Qin signed in there for the first time and received Buddha's palm, he couldn't sign in there anymore. But there were some places where he could sign in repeatedly. For example, the Hidden Scriptures Pavilion, the Bodhi Courtyard, and the Demon Subduing Tower. In the Hidden Scriptures Pavilion, Su Qin would receive various secret techniques. For example, Su Qin had already signed into the 72 secret techniques of the Shaolin Temple. He had already signed into them by the system and cultivated them to perfection. As for the Bodhi Courtyard, Su Qin didn't know how many pills he had signed in. Small recovery pill, great recovery pill, marrow cleansing pill, Bodhi pill. Among them, the effect of the great recovery pill was about 10 times that of the small recovery pill. The marrow cleansing pill cleansed the muscles and marrow and tempered the body. It was very beneficial for Su Qin's cultivation of the Vajra unbreakable divine art. There was also the Demon Subduing Tower. The Demon Subduing Tower was the place where the eminent monks of the Shaolin Temple suppressed the demons of the world. Su Qin usually signed in here for some demonic techniques. Over time, Su Qin was too lazy to come here. After all, although some demonic techniques are indeed unique, it would be troublesome if the abbot and the head abbot noticed that he was cultivating demonic techniques in the Shaolin Temple. Besides, the strength of the demons who can be suppressed in the Demon Subduing Tower is only SOSO, and almost none of them are in the upper realm. Even if Su Qin came here every day to sign in, he wouldn't gain much. It's better to put the sign-in opportunities in the Hidden Scriptures Pavilion and the Bodhi Courtyard. In 5 years, in addition to receiving a lot of sign-in rewards, Su Qin's cultivation base reached the 4th grade. 4th grade. He was already at the peak of the middle realm, only one step away from the upper realm. Even in a great sect like the Shaolin Temple, a fourth-grade martial artist is only second to the head abbot and the head abbot. Ordinary martial artists, no matter how terrifying their talent is, it would take 20 years of hard work to cultivate to the fourth grade. And this is based on the continuous supply of resources from the outside world. But Su Qin only took 5 years, to be precise, less than 5 years. Su Qin officially entered the fourth grade a year ago. 5 years have passed, presumably the family Su should have almost recovered, right? Su Qin walked to the front of the beauty courtyard and said in his heart, "System, sign in." Congratulations to the host for signing in successfully. Obtained the Great Recovery Pill. Great Recovery Pill? Su Qin nodded slightly. After his strength reached the fourth grade, the small recovery pill was basically useless to Su Qin. Only the Great Recovery Pill and the Beauty Pill could increase Su Qin's strength. Su Qin casually poured a bottle of Great Recovery Pill into his mouth and swallowed it as if he was chewing candy. If other people saw that the Great Recovery Pill was called the holy medicine of the Shaolin Temple, even the Beauty Courtyard couldn't produce many Great Recovery Pills in a year, but a sweeping monk like Su Qin swallowed it, they would probably be heartbroken. Father and mother should be doing well now. With big brother and second brother, they don't need me. As early as the first year of entering the Shaolin Temple, Su Qin received a letter from family Su that they had defeated the enemy and were basically safe. It was precisely because of this that Su Qin was able to sign in at the Shaolin Temple for 5 years with peace of mind. During this period, family Su told Su Qin more than once that they were trying to get him out of the Shaolin Temple. But every time, they were righteously rejected by Su Qin. Not to mention how family Su could persuade the Shaolin Temple, even if they could really make the Shaolin Temple release him, Su Qin was still unwilling to leave. At noon, Su Qin was about to prepare a vegetarian meal. When he passed by the Arhat courtyard, he found many monks gathered there, whispering about something. After Su Qin approached, he realized that there were disciples who wanted to break through the bronze array of the Arhat courtyard. Chapter 4. In front of the Arhat hall, many Shaolin Temple disciples were talking about it. Senior brother Xianxia is a genius of our Arhat yard. He has reached level 8 a few days ago. He will have no problem breaking through the 18 bronze men array. Yes, senior brother Xianxia is a disciple valued by the head of Arhat yard. It is said that he has been advised by the abbot. Xianxia? Su Qin thought for a while and finally remembered. Xianxia was a disciple of the Shaolin Temple at the same time as Su Qin. They both belonged to the Zhen generation. However, Xianxia's martial arts aptitude was excellent. He was valued by the head of Arhat yard and accepted into the Arhat yard personally. As for Su Qin, he was thrown into the chores yard because he had no martial arts aptitude. It could be said that Xianxia and Su Qin represented the two extremes of the Shaolin Temple disciples. The former was dazzling, while the latter was unknown. Senior brother Xianxia entered the Shaolin Temple for only 5 years and reached level 8. Maybe he will become the head of a yard in the future. A young acolyte of 12 or 13 years old said enviously. He had entered the Shaolin Temple for 2 or 3 years, but he was still training his muscles and bones. He had not even touched the door of level 9, let alone level 8. Su Qin was silent beside him. If the disciples next to him knew that the Xianxia that they worshipped and admired was left far behind by Su Qin, their eyeballs would probably pop out. Xianxia was a level 8 martial artist. But Su Qin was already a level 4 martial artist. There were 4 big realms between the two. Even 1,000 Xianxias together would not be enough to be suppressed by Su Qin. In martial arts practice, the gap was bigger at the later stage. Maybe 10 level 9 martial artists could fight against 1 level 8. But 10 level 5 martial artists could fight against 1 level 4 martial artist. It was no different from a fool's dream. Su Qin was not interested in Xianxia. What Su Qin was concerned about was that the bronze man array in the Arhat Academy had the effect of helping the disciples test their strength. Su Qin had mastered all kinds of unique skills and divine skills of the Shaolin Temple, and his strength had reached the terrifying level 4, but he had never fought with anyone. Although he knew that he had stepped into rank 4, he had no idea what kind of destructive power rank 4 possessed. Su Qin only knew that he was very strong, but he had no idea how strong he was. "Come over tonight when there's no one around." Su Qin turned around and left. Late at night, Su Qin took advantage of the moonlight and came to the front of the array of bronze men. "Begin." Su Qin did not say a word and directly charged into the formation. The bronze men in the bronze man array were mechanical creations and not real people. Furthermore, there was no one guarding the bronze man array. It was because of this that Su Qin decided to test his strength here. 18 figures whose bodies were as hard as copper and iron quickly surrounded him. Too weak and too slow. Su Qin shook his head slightly. With a thought, he pointed out a finger, like Buddha smiling while holding a flower. Flower-pinching finger. Suddenly, the 18 bronze men retreated and fell to the ground. During the day, Xianxia spent a lot of effort to break through the 18 bronze man array. In front of Su Qin, it did not even last a moment. Strength is too weak to have the effect of testing. Su Qin continued to walk inside. After the 18 bronze man array, it was the 36 bronze man array. A level 8 martial artist could break through the 18 bronze man array, but to continue to break through the 36 bronze man array, one had to be at least level 7. As for the 72 bronze man array, one could not try it unless one was a level 6 martial artist. Generally speaking, only a level 5 martial artist had the confidence to break through the 72 bronze man array. The last 108 bronze man array could only be activated by a level 4 martial artist. However, the 108 bronze man array contained Tiangang and Disha. It was left by a certain generation of a holy monk in the Shaolin Temple. An ordinary level 4 martial artist could not last long inside. Only those level 4 martial artists, or even close to level 3, could break through the 108 bronze man array. Rumble! Su Qin took a step forward. A terrifying internal force burst out. The 36 bronze man array that had just surrounded him broke almost at the touch. Su Qin went deeper again. Whoosh! The next moment, 72 bronze-colored figures, like ghosts, appeared near Su Qin. 72 bronze man array? Su Qin was slightly disappointed. Compared to the 18 bronze man array and the 36 bronze man array, the 72 bronze man array was much faster. However, for Su Qin, the 72 bronze man array was just SOSO. There was no threat at all. 72 bronze men flew out. There are only the last 108 bronze men left. Su Qin continued to go deeper. Suddenly, just as Su Qin entered the range of the 108 bronze man array, 108 figures appeared silently, and with the 108 heavenly spirits and earthly fiends, they turned into layers of inescapable nets and shrouded Su Qin. Under such circumstances, Su Qin seemed to not be facing the 108 bronze man array, but the world itself. Interesting. Su Qin's eyes lit up. Boom. In an instant, Su Qin collided with the 108 bronze man array. The 108 bronze man array carried the power of heaven and earth, crushing everything, but Su Chu was like an eternal golden Buddha. Buzz! Su Qin's skin faintly revealed a golden color. This was the embodiment of the invincible Vajra divine art, operating to the extreme. Invincible Vajra divine art is one of the strongest external techniques of the Shaolin Temple. When cultivated to the great success stage, the body alone is enough to challenge the martial artists of the upper realm. In the past 5 years, Su Qin had signed in thousands of baptizing marrow pills, but he only managed to improve this external technique to the great success stage. Originally, Su Qin thought that it would take at least a few years to truly cultivate invincible Vajra divine art to the great success stage. But now, under the sharpening of the 108 bronze man array, invincible Vajra divine art began to slowly improve again. Half an hour later. Ha ha ha. Great. It's really great. Su Qin's pupils flashed with a dark golden color. He raised his right hand, and the 108 bronze man array exploded in an instant. The great success stage of Invincible Vajra Divine Art. Only the great success stage of Invincible Vajra Divine Art can break the 108 bronze man array. However, before Su Qin could rejoice, a magnificent bell rang leisurely. Ding, ding, dang! The bell rang melodiously and deeply, resounding throughout the Shaolin Temple. Not good. I broke through the 108 bronze man array, and in the end, I accidentally broke the 108 bronze man array. I should have touched a certain mechanism and triggered this bell. In a flash, Su Qin's thoughts turned quickly, and he quickly thought of the reason. I have to leave. Otherwise, I'm afraid the abbot and the others will come. Su Qin's thoughts moved, and he disappeared in place. Not long after Su Qin left, Abbot Huiwen and the court heads hurried over. What happened? Why did the bell of the bronze man array ring? Isn't the bell only sounded after the disciple broke through the 18 bronze men, 36 bronze men, 72 bronze men, and 108 bronze men array? The warrior monastery's court head was puzzled. To break through these 4 arrays in a row, one needs to be at least at the 4th stage. But they all know that the current 4th stage monks of the Shaolin Temple can't break through the bronze man array. However, when Abbot Huiwen and the court heads approached, their faces were suddenly shocked. Someone is breaking through the bronze man array. After Abbot Huiwen finished speaking, he quickly walked into the depths. The court heads looked at each other, and an incredible thought suddenly appeared in their minds. Is it possible that someone broke through the 4 arrays in a row and caused the bell to ring? Soon. When the court heads entered the 108 bronze man array and saw the 108 bronze men broken into pieces, their pupils suddenly shrank. Not only did someone break through the 108 bronze men array, but even the 108 bronze men were broken into pieces? How is this possible? One must know that breaking through the 108 bronze men array and breaking the 108 bronze men array are 2 different concepts. The latter is much more difficult than the former. Abbot Huiwen lowered his body and gently touched the pieces of the bronze men, feeling the aura flowing on the pieces. Invincible Yang Qi, this is the great accomplishment of the indestructible Vajra divine art. Chapter 5. Great accomplishment of invincible Vajra divine art? When the other court heads heard this, their eyes widened. Invincible Vajra divine art is a unique skill of the Shaolin Temple, and all the court heads present have practiced it. However, it is easy to get started with Invincible Vajra divine art, but it is difficult to cultivate it. Simply put, it is 10 times harder to cultivate Invincible Vajra divine art to great accomplishment than an ordinary person who is not even in grade 9 to the upper realm. Of course, once Invincible Vajra divine art reaches great accomplishment, one can challenge an upper realm martial artist with their body alone. It's just that if one has the aptitude and energy to cultivate, wouldn't it be better to become an upper realm martial artist? Therefore, in the Shaolin Temple, Invincible Vajra divine art is a relatively unpopular unique skill. Everyone knows that Invincible Vajra divine art has great potential, but no disciple is willing to spend time on it, because the effort is not proportional to the harvest. Although the disciples of the Shaolin Temple are relatively dull, they are not fools. The warrior monastery head turned his eyes and looked at the Arhat court head. Well, the Arhat court hides deep enough. I didn't expect them to have a great accomplishment of Invincible Vajra divine art. Among the Shaolin Temple, the Arhat court has the most research on Invincible Vajra divine art. If there is a disciple who has cultivated Invincible Vajra divine art to great accomplishment, it can only be a disciple of the Arhat court. Moreover, the bronze array is also in the Arhat court. That's why the warrior monastery head asked. As soon as the voice of the warrior monastery head fell, the other court heads and Abbot Huiwen also looked over. Namo Amitba. The Arhat court head immediately replied, "This poor monk knows all the disciples of the Arhat court. No one can cultivate Invincible Vajra divine art to great accomplishment." As soon as these words came out, Abbot Huiwen and the court heads looked stunned. If it is not a disciple of the Arhat court, then which disciple has cultivated invincible Vajra divine art to great accomplishment? After a moment, the disciplinary court head tentatively asked, "Is it related to what happened 5 years ago?" 5 years ago, a golden Buddha appeared above the great strength hall, and Buddha's aura filled the air, illuminating the entire Shaolin temple. At that time, Abbot Hui Wen and the court heads thought that the Buddha favored a disciple, which caused this vision. However, in the end, they checked Buddha Shaolin Vajra court hall disciples at that time. No one had any anomalies. This matter has always been on Abbot Hui Wen's mind, and even now he is still secretly observing. Unfortunately, that is it. Is. Abbot Hui Wen sighed softly. Invincible Vajra divine art, specialized in the cultivation of the body. Once cultivated to great accomplishment, the control of the body would be terrifyingly strong. If the other party intended to hide his aura, it would be impossible to find him unless he attained Arhat. Let's not talk about this for now. Abbot Hui Wen was silent for a moment, and then said in a low voice, "The 100-year period is coming. Get ready." 100-year period? Hearing these words, the court heads' faces changed slightly. They looked at the forbidden area of the back mountain with solemn expressions. Almost. If we were a little slower, I'm afraid we would have been caught on the spot. Su Qin returned to the Chore's court and was slightly relieved. With Su Qin's strength, after breaking through the 108 bronze men array, he was fully capable of stopping the bell from ringing. But at that time, Su Qin was obsessed with the breakthrough and forgot to stop it. However, after the invincible Vajra divine art is completed, there will be such a change, Su Qin muttered to himself. At this moment, Su Qin's aura was completely restrained, and he was no different from an ordinary person. Even if Abbot Hui Wen personally checked, it would be impossible to find anything. But only Su Qin knew how terrifying the power he now possessed was. In the 108 bronze men array, Su Qin only released a little of his physical strength, and the 108 bronze men collapsed. If it was completely unleashed, how strong would the destructive power be? Su Qin was looking forward to it. Next, it's time to prepare for the breakthrough. Su Qin calmed down and made a decision in his heart. Since entering the 4th grade realm a year ago, Su Qin has been suppressing his cultivation and delaying the breakthrough time. It's not because Su Qin doesn't want to go further. It's because there is a great risk when entering the upper realm from the middle realm. This great risk has nothing to do with oneself, but comes from the outside world. If a martial artist wants to enter the upper realm and become a 3rd-grade martial artist, the first thing to do is to completely open the channel between oneself and the outside world and be washed by the world's essence chi. Only in this way can one truly become a martial artist in the upper realm. However, how tyrannical is the world's essence chi? If it is allowed to enter the body unscrupulously, who can predict the damage it will cause? Many rank 4 martial artists would explode and die immediately when they broke through. Even if they survived, their meridians were broken and they became a waste. This is also the reason why there are so few upper realm martial artists in the world today. Generally speaking, out of 54th grade martial artists breaking through, it's considered lucky if one person succeeds in the end. Even in a great sect like the Shaolin Temple, breaking through to the upper realm is a top priority and requires the personal protection of the court heads and the abbot. Therefore, Su Qin is so cautious. When breaking through to the upper realm, the biggest risk is the world's essence chi from the outside world entering the body. If there is a slight mistake, the body will explode and die. The reason for this is nothing more than that the body is too weak. If the body is strong enough to ignore the world's essence chi, the so-called risk is naturally not worth mentioning. Su Qin's thoughts fluctuated, but now, I have cultivated invincible Vajra divine art to the Dashi stage. With just my body, I can challenge the upper realm. With such a body, it shouldn't be a problem to withstand the world's essence chi. Su Qin guessed in his heart. Although Su Qin believes that the Dashi stage of invincible Vajra divine art is enough to cope with the risk of a breakthrough, But in order to be foolproof, he decided to wait a few more months. Using these few months, he will sign in more pills to strengthen the body, such as the marrow cleansing pill. Anyway, he has waited for a year, so a few more months won't make a difference. Next, Su Qin temporarily gave up the sign in outside the scripture pavilion and left all the sign in opportunities in the Bodhi court. During this period, Su Qin clearly felt that the Shaolin Temple seems to have begun to be on guard. And this atmosphere of vigilance is getting more and more intense. Even Su Qin, a sweeping monk with a very low sense of existence, noticed that something was wrong. While sweeping the floor, Su Qin vaguely heard some disciples whispering about the 100-year period and the Back Mountain Forbidden Area. Back Mountain Forbidden Area? Su Qin had a thoughtful look on his face. In the past 5 years, Su Qin has visited all corners of the Shaolin Temple. Only a few forbidden areas have not been to. Among them is the back mountain of the Shaolin Temple. In the first 4 years, Su Qin was weak and didn't dare to enter a forbidden area like the back mountain. After Su Qin entered the 4th grade, he could vaguely perceive that there was a more powerful aura in the back mountain. Because of this, Su Qin has never been close to the back mountain. No matter what happens, I'm just a sweeping monk, it has nothing to do with me. Su Qin thought for a while and didn't care too much. Chapter 6. When Su Qin returned to the chores yard, he found that the head of the chores yard was reprimanding someone. When the head of the chores yard saw Su Qin, he nodded slightly. The head of the chores yard had watched Su Qin grow up and knew that Su Qin had been diligent and hardworking in the past 5 years. Compared with Su Qin, the other disciples of the chores yard were not good enough. These disciples either wanted to learn the martial arts of the Shaolin Temple secretly or were lazy secretly. Only Su Qin had never slacked off in the past 5 years. Every day he would appear in different corners of the Shaolin Temple and sweep the floor. Where could he find such a worry-free disciple? The more the head of the chores yard looked at Su Qin, the more satisfied he was. He wondered if he should find an opportunity to entrust him with important tasks. Zhen Guan is back. The head of the chores yard smiled at Su Qin. Su Qin was a disciple of the Zhen generation. When he entered the Shaolin Temple, he was given the name Zhen Guan. Head of the chores yard. Su Qin walked to the crowd of chores yard disciples and stopped. Well, during this time, the Shaolin Temple is under martial law. You should all pay attention. The head of the chores yard turned his eyes to the other disciples and said seriously, "Head of the chores yard, what happened? I see that the disciples of the other yards are being mysterious." A disciple of the chores yard asked curiously. Hearing this, the other disciples' eyes lit up and their ears quickly pricked up. The head of the chores yard hesitated for a while and decided to say more. This is related to the scandal of the Shaolin Temple. Listen carefully and don't spread it. In fact, this matter was not a secret. The head of the chores yard didn't say it before because he didn't want to distract the disciples. But now, the Shaolin Temple was under martial law again because of this matter. If he didn't say anything, if these disciples got into trouble, he, the head of the chores yard, would have to clean up after them? 900 years ago, when the Shaolin Temple was at its peak, a traitor appeared. Although this traitor is a disciple of the Shaolin Temple, he betrayed the sutra and called himself Devil Buddha. He wants to destroy the Shaolin Temple. Fortunately, there was an ancestral master who had attained the realm of Arhat in the temple. When the ancestral master took action, the Devil Buddha was quickly suppressed. After suppressing the Devil Buddha, the founder passed away very quickly. At this point, the servant court head sighed softly. If the Shaolin Temple still had someone as powerful as Arhat, why would they be so cowardly now? The other disciples looked at each other when they heard this. At their level, they couldn't understand what Devil Buddha and Arhat meant. Only Su Qin had a serious look in his eyes. The warriors in the world were divided into 9 ranks. Rank 1 was the strongest, and rank 9 was the weakest. Those who could enter rank 3 were the most famous warriors in the world. The heads of the Shaolin Temple were at this level. As for Abbot Hui Wen, he is grade 2. In the whole world, a rank 2 warrior could be called a grandmaster of martial arts. As for rank 1, they were grandmasters of martial arts. Only a sect with a rank 1 warrior could be called a major martial arts sect in the world. Even in the Shaolin Temple, a rank 1 warrior was called a holy monk. Above rank 1 was the realm of Arhat. People in Jianghu preferred to call warriors of this realm legend of martial arts. Whether it was the realm of Arhat or legend of martial arts, they both represented the pinnacle of martial arts. They could ride the wind and control the qi, and destroy cities and destroy the earth with a flip of the hand. According to the servant court head, the ancestral master who attained the realm of Arhat passed away soon after suppressing the devil Buddha. Suppressing, not killing. It was very likely that the devil Buddha was also a powerful warrior at the level of Arhat. Therefore, the ancestral master could only suppress, because it was impossible to kill. Moreover, during the suppression, the ancestral master should have been seriously injured, which led to his quick death. Besides that, Su Qin also knew that the most powerful divine skill of the Shaolin Temple, the Buddha's palm, which was claimed to have been personally taught by Buddha, was lost 900 years ago. It was at the same time as the birth of the devil Buddha. Su Qin guessed that it was because of the chaos of the devil Buddha that the Buddha's palm was lost, and the ancestral master who attained the realm of Arhat passed away. Just as Su Qin was thinking. The servant court head continued, although the devil Buddha was suppressed, his demonic thoughts did not die. Every 100 years, he would break through the seal and split out a strand of demonic thoughts to bewitch the disciples of the Shaolin Temple. In the past 900 years, because of the bewitchment of the demonic thoughts, a total of 8 successors of the devil Buddha appeared in the Shaolin Temple. These successors of the devil Buddha were all disciples of the Shaolin Temple, but they were influenced by the demonic thoughts and wanted to destroy the Shaolin Temple. And in a few years, it will be the 900 years. Therefore, if you are bewitched by the demonic thoughts, you must inform me in time. Do you understand? The servant court head looked at the disciples sternly when he said this. Yes, court head. The disciples of the servant court immediately replied. After the servant court head left, Su Qin did what he should do. The devil Buddha was a matter for the court heads and the abbot of the Shaolin Temple. It had nothing to do with Su Qin. The sweeping monk was too inconspicuous. Unless the Shaolin Temple was destroyed, no matter how big the matter was, it would not affect Su Qin. Half a year passed just like that. In the past 6 months, Su Qin only signed in at the Bodhi court and received a large number of pills. The preparations are almost done. Su Qin casually found a mountain forest and prepared to break through. This mountain forest was at the edge of the Shaolin Temple. Often, no one would come here for several years. Su Qin's breakthrough would not alarm the abbot of the Shaolin Temple even if he caused some commotion. Walala! Su Qin raised his right hand and immediately took out the pills from the system space. These pills were placed in front of Su Qin. They were all pills to strengthen the body, such as the marrow cleansing pill. At a glance, there were about 1,000 of them. If the court heads of the Shaolin Temple saw these pills, they would be so shocked that their jaws would drop. Even the entire Bodhi court produced more than 100 marrow cleansing pills a year. These marrow cleansing pills were distributed to each court head and each court head could only get 10 pills a year. But now, there were thousands of marrow cleansing pills in front of Su Qin. It was equivalent to 10 years of production of the Bodhi court without eating or drinking. Start! Su Qin sat cross-legged and kept eating the marrow cleansing pills as if he was eating beans. Half an hour later, Su Qin's aura suddenly shrank. Then, the endless heaven and earth essence qi rushed madly into Su Qin's body as if a gate had been opened. However, the heaven and earth essence qi, which was enough to make an ordinary 4th-grade martial artist explode on the spot, poured into Su Qin's body like a well-behaved cat and quickly integrated into every piece of flesh and blood, crazily strengthening his body. 2 hours passed. Su Qin opened his eyes and was slightly surprised. That's it? I'm already a 3rd-grade martial artist? Su Qin was surprised. The process of him entering the 3rd grade was as simple as eating and drinking. It was not as dangerous as the rumors said. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation, audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.